Hey, I've done a load of videos recently on all the great things about being a photographer and these like simple steps into getting into there. But there are some big sacrifices that we have to make as professionals. So this video here is going to be dedicated to the things that I personally had to give up in order to be a professional photographer. Now, before we go any further into it, I just want to make it very clear that I don't regret giving these things up, but I see a lot of people trying to do this profession or trying to have a similar profession to me, but they're not willing to make these sacrifices. And yes, some people can go without the sacrifices and still make it, but for me personally, perhaps I didn't have as much talent as them, so I had to put the graft in. So let's have a look at these. Now, one of the first things I had to do was stop socializing with photographers. And that doesn't mean stop socializing with my friends who happen to be photographers, but stop socializing with other photographers. The vast majority of photographers aren't doing it for a profession, or if they are, they probably aren't doing it well. Now, that's just a fact of life, really. You know, a lot of them won't put the work in that is required. And because of that, you'll end up being dragged down by them. You'll end up having conversations about camera lenses and sharpness and DxO scores and all this boring stuff that has very little to do with the profession. Whereas what you should be doing is having conversations with people who can actually help push you forward, talk about the artistic integrity of the image and talk about the way in which you come up with new concepts and the style that you're trying to emulate or the direction you're trying to go in your career, rather than, I've heard these batteries work better than these ones. I will never forget a talk I had once at a job where someone was discussing the benefits of on-loop batteries. I have never been so bored in my life. So try and avoid that. And that goes with camera clubs and all the rest of it, because it is it's not a negative environment in terms of the social aspect, but if you're looking to actually become a professional photographer, that's not the forum to be doing so, which in a very clever way brings me to my next one. That's internet forums. We don't have time for it. The people commenting in internet forums, for the most part, you have no idea who they are, what their merits are, what their strengths are, what their weaknesses are, what they know, whether they actually know that what they're saying is incorrect, whether they believe it is correct but it is incorrect, or is it just correct? We don't know. It is the most inefficient way to find any information. If you Google something and it takes you to a forum, you have no idea how that information's got there, what it's doing there, why it's there, and if it's been vetted. Even on websites which aren't forums, the information is often wrong. If you find yourself having time to post in forums or get involved in internet arguments with other photographers, this probably isn't the career for you, because by the time you get to that point, you're wasting so much time you can't possibly be working enough. Now, slightly deviating away from this now, and that is worrying about what other people are doing. You know, and we all have that person on social media, on YouTube, on Instagram, whatever it may be, where you look at them and you sort of get a slight bad feeling in your stomach because they're doing better than you think you're doing. And with those people, you just need to not follow them. You don't want to be jerking your neck to see other people climbing their ladder whilst you're climbing yours, because you will literally just fall off your ladder. Just tunnel vision. Yes, you need to be aware of the profession, the environment, the situations going on around the world. But if there's particular people that you find are toxic to you, doesn't mean they're toxic people, but to you it becomes toxic. You need to stop following those people and stop worrying about what so-and-so is doing and if they're doing it right or if they're doing it wrong, or being annoyed that they got the job you didn't get, or whatever it may be. Cut those people out of your life politely. Okay, and slowly moving away from the camera stuff, this is probably the last camera bit of here, but this is having a want list of kit. There are two types of photographers that I talk to: the hobbyists who want certain kit, which is great. When I'm a hobbyist cyclist, I want a certain bike. And then there's the professionals, and they might need certain kit. Not, I want this lens, but I have a job where it's going to be this much to rent it, and it's about the same price to buy it. Should I buy it and invest in it? What should I do? You know, that sort of thinking. If you're spending ages, and this harks back to the forum thing where you're sort of looking online at reviews, DX markings, whatever it might be, most of that stuff is pretty pointless. If you need a bit of kit, you'll know you need it because you cannot do the job without it. If you can do the job without it, you do not need it. This here is being shot on a new camera, so the grading's probably going to be a bit off because it's my first time working with this format. I needed this camera for some work I have coming up for an ongoing project where it will easily pay for itself. I didn't do research leading up to it. I went to a trusted camera store. Not all camera stores are trusted. You need to find a proper pro one, and went, what do I need? And they said, this one. And I said, great. And they took my money and I took my camera, and it's working well for me. But the grading issues that I'm slowly learning is raw footage. I've only ever shot straight from camera before, but I digress. So away from the whole photography business side of things, one of the things I really had to give up was the excessive personal overheads. Years gone by, I was spending thousands and thousands per month. I don't really know on what, but you know, toiletry products, going out, restaurants, all these things which just add up and add up and add up. In your first probably 10 years of having a business, and I'm not talking about a side business, I'm talking about being full-time, you've got to cut your overheads down as much as you can. I used to go on a bicycle everywhere. I still very rarely spend money on things I don't actually necessarily need. I perhaps treat myself twice a year. And I'm quite far into this business. I think once you've done it to start with, to keep the overheads down, you kind of just go, well, why would I spend it now when I've not missed anything? But you need to keep your personal overheads down. You can't be having the latest iPhone, a top car on lease or hire purchase or on a loan of some sort like that, or even cash money because it's just depreciating. You can't have stupidly expensive apartment on the penthouse and all the rest of it. You need to cut these things down whilst you're building your business, because the last thing you need is additional stress from additional overheads that don't really help you make any money. Unless the thing you're spending money on is actually creating further income, cut it down as much as you physically can. It'll be worth it in the long run because you don't have to go to a job you hate, but just suck it up. Now, kind of linked to this is decision-making fatigue. And when you're doing something like this career is incredibly competitive. There are very few people who can make good money from it. And to get to the point where you're being booked by the big brands and you're shooting the big campaigns or on a good agent's books, you have to be at the top. And to do that, you have to make good decisions. Now, I'm a firm believer that you can only make so many good decisions in a day, so I try and reduce the number of decisions I make. My breakfast every morning is porridge, 2 cups of black coffee. Sounds boring as sin, but I don't have to think about it because that is my breakfast. I wear a black t-shirt. There'll be one here. There we go. And I have 3 of these hoodies. I have blue, black, grey. Blue jeans, black jeans. That is it. Obviously, underwear as well. I'm not that savage, but I keep it as minimal as possible. Everything I do is done so that I don't have to make decisions. And this also actually ties in, and it's kind of a minimalist approach to the spending as little as possible. If everything is just bare minimum, all you have to focus on is your work. So all these extra things that eat up time, like, you know, we use a HelloFresh delivery service for our food. So I don't have to worry about what's for dinner because it's in a box and I just have to prepare it and cook it. My breakfast is my breakfast. My lunch comes with me in a little Tupperware container. It's already made, goes in the oven, gets heated up. We're good to go. Not having to think about all these things gives me more thinking power for the stuff that is really important, like, should the background be light blue, dark blue? Should we have a slight haze to the image or not? These decisions matter. What t-shirt I'm wearing to work today really doesn't matter. Now, something that I see a lot of photographers who come for one-to-ones with me or portfolio reviews or pricing reviews, they're very reactive in their work and say, I don't have time, I've got all this work on. But when you look at how much money they're making, they're not actually making that much money for the amount of work they're doing. They're stuck in meetings, they're going for coffee with people, and you have to be brutal with this sort of thing. Unless it is my best friend or an extremely close friend or family member who needs me, if someone wants me to go for coffee, I need to be pretty certain there's a lot of money at the end of that coffee because I don't have time to go and meet people for coffee. I'd rather keep that time for my work or the children, not for meeting random people. I get asked to be on boards all the time to review competitions or all of these things, and it's great, it feels nice, it's all shiny, your ego gets a good polish, but is it helping my career? Not really. So being just really brutal on how you spend your time and your procrastination and your time wasting, you know, some of them are quite easy to do. Like, I have a limit on my phone for social media, so I can only spend 45 minutes a day on it, which might seem like a lot, but it's pretty quickly eaten up, actually. And then things like that. I only watch TV in the evenings. I won't watch TV until the children have gone to bed, because it's a black hole. Not that I don't think you should have rest. Rest is important, but it should be rest when you need it, not rest because you're procrastinating and avoiding stuff. And the difficult side of this, the hard bits to avoid, are those shiny things like, we have a magazine thing coming up. Can you come for a meeting to talk to us about it? It's like, well, I could spend half the day going to a meeting and coming back again, but we could just jump on a Zoom call or email me. And it's trying to cut through those things which are just time vacuums and just hoover up all your time. Pre-COVID, I used to lose so much time going to meetings. I will not go to a meeting in person anymore unless it is absolutely imperative and they've already agreed to paying me. I'm not going, because why would I waste so much of my time traveling there and back when we can just jump on Zoom? So you have to be careful with these things. The same with when I started the YouTube channel, I had a lot of people asking me for advice. I can't afford to give advice away for free. Not because I think the advice is so valuable, although that is part of the thing, but mostly because my time is so valuable and I can't afford to spend ages giving people individual advice without them paying for my time. So what I do is I give en masse advice like this, where you can all listen to it and all have it for free. And then if you need personal advice, you can contact me and we can arrange that. But it's very important to protect that time. And in doing so, the reactive nature of your work, where you're constantly spinning plates because it's all been eaten up by all these things that just don't really matter and don't really push your career forward, will feel a lot better, really. So off the back of that is buying into your own hype. And I have been incredibly guilty of this about 7 years ago. I had an agent who looked after a lot of very famous people and myself. And I thought I was good. I genuinely thought I was good. Now looking back, I realized I was average to mediocre, but I thought I was good. And the problem I had there was I was coming in to work and approaching my life from a level that I'm good, let's move up. Whereas no matter how good you are, you need to approach it like you're a beginner and you're beginning every day. You know, every email should be courteous. Every email should have the same sort of excitement in it as when you're starting out. Nobody is too big to be polite. Nobody is too big to have to ask for help. And that's very important, which leads me through to something that I really had to give up, and that is my pride. Several years ago now, it might have been 8 years ago, I had a particularly bad November. I had no work, none at all. That meant no money was coming in December. So I had to go and get a bar job. And I've worked in bars for years, loved it. But I had to swallow my pride and serve people who I thought were my clients from a bar on minimum wage. And that, to me, I didn't feel very comfortable with it, but I had to swallow that pride so I could continue to pursue this as a profession. If I hadn't have done that, if I hadn't have sucked it up, I wouldn't be here today. I'd have had to have gone a proper day job and get a salary, and I'd probably have just gone, this is easy, let's stick it out. But instead, I had to swallow my pride and go, yep, do you know what? I'll pick up the dirty glasses, I'll mop up the vomit, it'll all be okay in the end. Swallow the pride, take one for the team, and just crack on with whatever it is you need to do to push this forward. Now, the last one is something I see in almost every one-to-one client I have, and that's perfectionism. And this is just a killer. My old housemate used to have a saying, which was, if it's worth doing badly, which makes very little sense, but it is pretty true. No matter how bad it is, just put it out there. If you go back in this channel to my first video, it's horrific. I didn't own any lights. Because I only had still stuff. I had a stills camera, no lights, really uneven lighting because I just couldn't control it with anything. I had no microphones. It was just the built-in microphone, I think. And I didn't know how to edit it. So it was basically a one-take video with a few bits laid on top. It was awful. But if I hadn't have done that, and I've started that now today, I would only just be releasing that awful video. And the most common one I have from photographers who come to me is the website. It's just not launched. It's all built in the back end, but they're waiting to get the better images. They've got this good shoot coming up, or they've got a new camera on the way, and until they've got some shots with that, they don't want to put it out there. Whatever it is that you're putting off because of your perfectionism, which is actually anxiety and fear of failure, just publish it today. Put it out there, start it, crack on, because the first 8 years of whatever you do is going to be pretty rubbish. When I look back on these videos here in 8 years' time, these are going to seem particularly Mickey Mouse, which is fine. But if I don't do them now, I can't get better. There's only so much practicing you can do without releasing stuff which is going to help you. You have to put your stuff out there and let go of this perfectionism, this, I need this kit, I need this lens, I need to work more on this body of work, I need to work more on this web design bit. You can get a website up and running in 10 minutes and bang it out there. Do that. Because until it's out there, no one's going to know who you are anyway. And it's better to make the mistakes now rather than later on down the line when you're really needing that income and your website looks bad then because you haven't had that time to get feedback from people seeing it live going, by the way, it's nicer if we can do it this way. Anyway, these are some of the things that I had to give up. And I thought it'd be useful to put them out there for you all to listen to as well. Maybe you think, do you know what? Yeah, maybe I should cut down my personal overheads, then I could leave my day job sooner. And that's much more exciting to me than having the same living style outside of work, but having to go to a 9-to-5 job every day when I'd rather be taking pictures of kangaroos. I'm not sure where kangaroos came from, but that's what we're going with. Anyway, I'm done for the day. Moggy's having a nap down here still. There she is. That's a cat stroke from a distance. See you next time. Bye-bye.